The film starts in futuristic Los Angeles, which is destroyed by robots in the year 2029. Robots are taking control of Earth and want to eliminate humankind. To prevent machines from taking over the Earth, humans make a strategy to travel back in time and fight a war for their survival. The year switches to 1984 in Los Angeles at 1:34 a.m. when a completely naked, muscular man lands on Earth by teleportation. That man is a machine called T-800 Terminator, a cyborg sent back in time by Skynet, a post-apocalyptic artificial intelligence fighting humankind. It is sent here with a mission to kill a woman named Sarah Connor. Terminator strolls down the street and sees three young men who make fun of it. It murders and steals their clothes. Another naked man appears on a downtown street via teleportation. He is, however, a human named Kyle Reese, who has come from the future to save Sarah Connor from Terminator. He steals a homeless man's clothes and consequently gets chased by cops, but Kyle hides in a shopping mall, steals some stuff, and escapes. Before leaving, he snatches a shotgun from the police car and sets out to find Sarah Connor. Sarah is a young woman who works as a waitress in a small restaurant and lives a lonely life. Additionally, Terminator takes a car and then visits a firearms store to get weapons for its mission. The shopkeeper shows it several guns. However, the Terminator kills the shopkeeper and steals the guns. The Terminator then heads to a phone booth and searches for Sarah Connor's contact information from the phone directory. However, it quickly learns that there are 3 Sarah Connor in the area, so it decides to murder all of them. Terminator visits the first address and murders Sarah Connor. The news of her death is broadcast on television. When the real target, Sarah, watches this news, she gets scared, knowing the deceased woman is named the same as her. Later, Sarah and her flatmate Ginger prepare for a night out. But Sarah receives a call from her date, who bails out at the last moment, so she decides to go alone. Her flatmate Ginger decides to spend the night with her boyfriend in the flat. Meanwhile, at the local police station, Officer Ed and Officer Hall become suspicious when 2 women named Sarah Connor are murdered on the same night. They decide to contact the last remaining Sarah, but Ginger and Matt don't answer the call. Sarah is eating pizza when she learns of the murder of another girl named Sarah Connor. Suddenly, she becomes scared and decides to call Ginger. She then goes to the nearby nightclub to make the call but receives no response. Sarah also calls the cops, but all lines are busy. Kyle also follows Sarah to the nightclub. However, Sarah considers him creepy and doubts his intentions. Meanwhile, the Terminator arrives at Sarah's flat to kill the third and final Sarah Connor. But Ginger opens the door, and Terminator thinks she is Sarah, so it kills both Ginger and Matt. Finally, when Terminator believes it has murdered all Sarah Connors, it hears the voice message where Sarah is telling Ginger her current location. The Terminator then realizes that it has killed the wrong girl and discovers a photograph of the real Sarah in her room. The police call Sarah's phone, and they advise her to remain where she is until they send a patrol car for her. The Terminator also arrives at the nightclub, but just as it is about to kill Sarah, Kyle begins shooting it, causing terror among people. Finally, Sarah and Kyle manage to escape in a car, but Terminator keeps following them. Sarah gets frustrated and asks Kyle the reason why she is being attacked by a mysterious man, and why Kyle is helping her. Kyle then informs her that the Terminator is sent here from the future world to murder her, so he is trying to save her life. Kyle further informs her that the person after her is a cyborg and is difficult to distinguish because it resembles a human body. Due to advanced technology, Terminator can even bleed and sweat like a human because it is coated with living tissue that makes it look human. Additionally, Kyle informs her that he is from the future and lived through a period when technology gradually took control of their life, finally leading to a nuclear war in 2029 that destroyed the planet. John Connor, Sarah Connor's future son, efficiently leads the resistance against technology. John Connor has proved to be a significant threat to technology, so they have dispatched the Terminator in the past to kill his mother to prevent John's birth. The police follow Sarah's automobile to protect her because she is the Terminator's next victim. Terminator also follows Sarah and Kyle in a police car. When they realize about being followed, Sarah starts driving while Kyle begins firing at the Terminator. The Terminator then departs the scene after a thrilling vehicle pursuit, but police apprehend Sarah and Kyle. The Terminator enters a hotel room and fixes its injured arm before repairing one of its damaged eyes. It then leaves for the police station to murder Sarah. Sarah cries sadly when she is informed about the deaths of her friends Ginger and Matt at the police station. However, Kyle gets desperate as no one believes his story about the future and calls him insane. He is then sent for a psychological evaluation, where the authorities demand that Kyle must produce any evidence in the form of advanced future ammunition. But Kyle informs them that only living beings can travel across time, but no one believes his story, and they lock him in a room. The lieutenant urges Sarah to rest as she is secure in a police station. Meanwhile, Terminator arrives there and inquires about Sarah, but the receptionist requests Terminator to leave, so it crashes with the car and enters the police station. The Terminator then begins killing all the officers, and Sarah becomes terrified as she hears this firing. The cops try to defend themselves, but are no match for an invincible Terminator. On the other hand, Kyle knocks down a police officer and flees to protect Sarah. They both leave the police station and steal a car from the parking lot, and both Kyle and Sarah escape safely before the Terminator can apprehend them. The pair seek safety under a flyover, taking a first aid kit and flashlight from the automobile's trunk. While they talk, Sarah tends to Kyle's gunshot wound, and he informs her about her future son, John, and their search for her. Sarah becomes emotional as she hears about her son. Kyle continues to tell her stories, including one about him and his crew engaging in hard combat with the Terminator at a resistance base. The Terminator defeated humans, but his only photograph of Sarah got damaged. Sarah falls asleep in Kyle's lap while listening to his story. She abruptly awakens and claims to have seen several dogs in her nightmares, and Kyle reassures her that while fighting the Terminators, they utilize dogs to detect their presence. Kyle and Sarah then head to a hotel and request a room with a kitchen. Kyle goes out to get supplies to make hand grenades and also brings a gun, which he gives to Sarah. Sarah then phones her mother, who expresses concern for her and inquires about her whereabouts. She tells her mother about her stay with Kyle, and her mother hangs up the phone. It turns out that Terminator replicated Sarah's mother's voice after killing her and talked on a call with Sarah. Kyle admits to Sarah that he fell in love with her the instant he saw her image, so he traveled back in time only to save her life. Sarah gets emotional. They confess their feelings for one another and get intimate. At that moment, John is conceived. When Terminator arrives at Sarah's house, a dog begins to bark, alerting Kyle that the Terminator has arrived. The Terminator then follows Kyle and Sarah on a bike before they can flee in a car. Kyle gets shot in the leg, and Sarah becomes enraged and attempts to push the Terminator's bike off its stand, but their automobile loses balance and they crash. Fortunately, the Terminator approaches them, but is struck by a large truck. Sarah takes a sigh of relief as she believes that Terminator is finally dead, but strangely, it survives the collision and continues to chase them. The Terminator begins riding a truck and keeps pursuing her. Kyle tries eliminating it by detonating a bomb in the truck, which explodes. Although Sarah and Kyle are relieved that they destroyed the cyborg and survived the explosion, unfortunately, Terminator is still alive. Its true metallic skeletal form becomes visible because its exterior burned during the explosion. The Terminator then breaks inside the factory where Sarah and the injured Kyle hide. As the Terminator looks for them, they slip past the machines, and Sarah accidentally produces a sound that alerts the Terminator about her presence. Kyle is struck by the Terminator while battling it with a useless pipe, so Kyle sacrifices himself by detonating an explosive within the Terminator as it approaches Sarah. But it results in killing Kyle, and the Terminator remains unharmed. Only the upper half of the Terminator survives, and it starts crawling towards Sarah, who is being held under a hydraulic press. Sarah crawls more quickly and escapes the hydraulic press. While still crawling, the Terminator extends its hand to strangle Sarah, but she presses the button, causing the hydraulic press to crush the Terminator's entire body. Soon, the paramedics arrive, and Kyle is brought to the hospital, but unfortunately, he dies. Later, Sarah drives through the Mexican desert with a dog in the back seat and a revolver in her lap while she looks pregnant. She records a message for her future son and tells him that Kyle is his real father. When she arrives at a petrol station, a boy snaps a picture of her, and she purchases it from him. This is the same image that John later handed Kyle in the future. Suddenly, a massive storm appears, but Sarah keeps advancing to an unknown future. The Terminator, released in 1984, directed by James Cameron, produced on a budget of approximately $6.4 million. Although Arnold Schwarzenegger was already known for Conan the Barbarian, the Terminator established him as a major Hollywood actor. Interestingly, Schwarzenegger was initially considered for the role of Kyle Reese, but Cameron decided he would be better suited as the titular Terminator. Due to the film's modest budget, many of the special effects had to be achieved practically. This included scenes where the Terminator operates on his own eye, which was accomplished using a model of Schwarzenegger's head. The Terminator introduced many elements that have since become staples in science fiction, including the dangers of artificial intelligence. It raised questions about fate, free will, and what it means to be human. Please subscribe for more videos like this. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you at the next recap.